Is this the way you should live your life?
Be strong, but not rude.
Be kind,
But not weak. Be bold, but not a bully. Be thoughtful.
but not lazy.
Be humble, but not timid. Be proud, but not arrogant. To have humor, but without folly.
Get real lessons on life, finances, relationships. Get real with Dani Johnson.
Dani Johnson.
The Dani Johnson Show.
Dani Johnson Show. Dani Johnson Show.
Welcome to the Dani Johnson Show. Hey, we're really blessed that you made a decision today to tune in to us. And we are going to do what we can to be a blessing right back to you. Hey, I want you to picture this for just 1 second. Have you ever been out in public and have seen those kids? Do you know what I'm talking about? Those kids that are out of control, totally unruly. Come on, you and I both have been that person that is sitting in a nice, quiet restaurant, and all of a sudden, here's this family that comes in with 2 little kids. And you and the person you're with, could be your spouse, could be your best friend, look at each other and go, oh, come on, you know we've done that. Because we have experienced, in today's world, we've experienced more people who have the most unruly of all kids. But is that you? Are you the one that has the kid that's totally out of control? Hey, I understand. Been there, done that. Come on, I have 5 kids. 5 kids. We have a whole lot of grandkids. 5 grandkids, soon to be 7 grandkids. That's a lot of little peoples who have their own little heads, who have their own little ways, who've got their own desires, who have their own passions, who've got their own ways of how they see things in the world. So today, we're going to talk about who's the boss. Is it you or is it your kids? You know, I'm really not sure what the answer is today. Because in a lot of cases, in fact, unfortunately, in most cases, we see adults arguing with their little ones. We see the little one controlling the adults of the house. We see that oftentimes in a lot of homes that the kids are the ones who are the center of the universe, and mom and dad think that's how it's supposed to be. Life completely stopped when they brought kids into the house. The world revolved around that kid. What happens when that kid grows up with that trained mindset? Think about it. What happens when a kid grows up with the trained mindset? Because the environment trained them to believe that the whole world revolves around them. Well, let's just fast forward and see what it looks like. What does it look like in a 13-year-old? That the whole world revolves around them. 17, 21, into their marriage, into their job. We've all encountered individuals who think the world revolves around them. In fact, if I were to say, pull out a piece of paper and a pen and make me a list of everyone you know that they think the world revolves around them, I'm sure you could come up with a list. We've all encountered people that are like that. Hopefully, we're not one of them. Yikes! It's possible that we might be. I know that I have definitely fallen into that trap before. I have, and it's a dangerous place, and it's something that I have to make sure and fight against, because it's really, really easy to get to a place of wanting things to revolve around you. I got to tell you this story quickly. Just recently, I got really convicted on something. You know that we have a lot of kids, and we have 3 that are adults. I have left in the house 17 and a 15-year-old. And, well, yeah, we've had some of the adults come and visit and bring some people with them. And, well, let's just say that, you know, I ran my home like a business. I took my job as a wife and a mother very professional and seriously. I know that might sound a little morbid to you and disgusting, but it really worked for me. It really has. It's worked really quite well for me. Keeping things in order, having things kind of systematic, having routines and schedules in place, and really growing, trying to grow each year as a mother or a wife, evaluating my performance as a mother or as a wife, places that I had weaknesses that I needed to grow in. And in my early years when all the kids were really little, oh boy, boy, did I have a spot where I was just a terrible, terrible, terrible. I was failing in the wife department and I was failing in the mother department. And here's the place that I was failing. You see, I had built businesses part-time for a long time at that point. And I retired in 1999 from my speaking career and my business career. And I'd only been working 20 hours a week for about 4 years at that point. And so I really had found my identity in my work. I found my identity in my earning power, my ability to make millions of dollars in business after being a homeless woman. I really had my ego all kind of caught up with that place of like, oh man, I'm so important because I know how to make millions of dollars. Well, then I came to a place where my stress had increased tremendously, and we had moved to a place that had a high elevation, and without realizing it, without knowing it, I had been born with 2 electrical pathways in my heart. And these 2 electrical pathways, once we moved into high elevation and the stress increase of the move and the kids and all of this stuff, well, my heart started to race. It would go from a resting heart rate to 300 beats a minute. And so the doctor said I could never fly, that I was not allowed to work, that I had to reduce my stress tremendously. I'm like, I have all of these kids. I have a tribe that I live with. Are you serious? How in the world? And I had a gigantic house at that point. Come on. If you've listened to the show, you've heard me share the wickedness of my past and all of the sin and the error of my ways, especially with money, because I was an idiot financially. I spent every dime that I made and then some. I spent more than I made because I was an idiot and I didn't understand the principle of wealth accumulation. I just had the principle of riches that run from you. And so anyway, so I'm under this crazy amount of stress and the doctor says it can't work anymore. So awesome. That's wonderful. Well, here I found myself we needed to sell our gigantic house because there's no way I could take care of it by myself. And if I wasn't going to work, I obviously couldn't afford a housekeeper. I couldn't afford a part-time nanny to help me out every couple of days. So, yeah, I became the nanny. I became the cook, which I was the full-time cook anyway, the full-time housekeeper, the full-time gardener of 1,000 flowers that we had on our property, 15 different rose bushes, ridiculous. I didn't even like roses. But anyway, so I had all of this responsibility that was on me and a pool and a tennis court to take care of. I mean, just all this crazy stuff. And I had to be responsible for my own purchases, I guess. Well, my friend, every wicked thing was exposed. It was, or at least every wicked thing that I could see that was exposed to me. The world had revolved around me, and I didn't know it. So now I was grudgingly folding those 15 pairs of underwear every day. Now I was begrudgingly cooking dinner. My husband wasn't one of those that liked to help with cleaning anything. Fortunately, he didn't keep his clothes on the floor, so fortunately he didn't increase in the mess of his own personal items. But, you know, I cooked dinner, I cleaned the house, I did the laundry, I did everything, okay? If something got broken, I had to fix it because he didn't like to fix things. He didn't cook, he didn't clean, but I'm just grateful that he didn't leave his clothes laying around, so at least he didn't create more of a mess. And sometimes he'd help with the kids, but that's how our relationship was. Still is. But anyway, so I was very resentful. I was very upset. And why am I talking about this? Because I was the person that the world revolved around me. And I had to go through something so hard to shift me from that mindset where everybody else's worlds is what I was revolving around. And I had to learn how to serve. And that was hard. I had to learn to serve with a good attitude. I had to learn to not complain verbally with my mouth or even screaming the complaints, and also not to complain internally, as every piece of underwear with the little, Spider-Man on them, right? You got your little toddlers at your potty training, every little dress that I was folding of my daughter, every little piece, every little article, and then, of course, the clean clothes that ended up in the wash, right? Because the kids are cleaning their room, and they throw the clean clothes in with the dirty clothes. Now the clean clothes were dirty. I had to train myself to become a servant. And so this is why it's so important that our children cannot be the center of the house. that our children cannot be trained with the mindset, unintentionally or intentionally, that the world revolves around them. That you as a parent, your life revolves around them. Because when you fast forward that into the teen years or the young adult years, or you fast forward that into how they are as an individual who is married to somebody else, whenever there's one person in the marriage that thinks the world revolves around them and that everyone should be serving them and that everyone needs to bow down to their schedule and their desires, God forbid if this isn't a man. Wow, what a disaster that is. That if it's a man that, hey, it's my way or the highway, or even a woman, it's my way or the highway. This is terrible. This is a terrible way to train up your children. So when you let your kids get away with them manipulating you, them having those temper tantrums when they don't get their way, and when you put your life on hold to wrap your entire life around them and their schedule and everything that is most important to them, and you have lost your own identity, your own interests, and who you are, well, then you've trained them for a bad marriage in the future. That's my opinion. You might totally disagree with me. 844-200-3264 is my number. This is a discussion that you and I are going to have. How can we help each other be better parents? You know, there's something that Rose Kennedy said that I think is so powerful. It's the very first time I'm seeing this quote, actually. I wish I would have saw this quote a long time ago because it would have been a pat on my back probably when I needed it. But she says, I look on child rearing not only as a work of love and duty, but as a profession that was fully as interesting and challenging as an honorable profession in the world, and one that demanded the best that I could bring to it. That is also my mindset when it comes to kids and training them up. Most of the world, their parenting plan is give birth and hope for the best. Unless, of course, they go to church. Then their plan is very similar. Give birth and pray for the best. Not having any training put into the kids. Not having a strategic plan of what should we pour into our children so that they turn into responsible adults financially, relationally, serving other people. What do we need to make sure that we train into them that are skills that will help them in the marketplace, either be business people or political leaders? In this case, Rose Kennedy obviously raised up politicians. She trained up her children to lead nations. So listen to me. We're going to enter in this discussion. If you're in that place where you are the one that has the kids that go bonkers in the car, bonkers in the grocery store, bonkers at a restaurant, and you need help, call me, 844-200-3264. Again, 844-200-3264. I'm obviously not the chief expert on all things by any stretch of the imagination, but I've raised a few kids, and I might be able to help with a little tips here and there. This is Dani Johnson. We'll continue with more right after this.
Stay tuned for more of The Dani Johnson Show.
The whole story of how I went from homeless to millions is right here in this book, First Steps to Wealth. I'd love to give you a free copy of this book. Just dial 888-757-8880. You can get your free copy of this book. It's like a real book, my friend. You can get an ebook copy for free right now, or if you'd like to pay the shipping to get this $15 book to your house, I'd be happy to send it to you. 888-757-8880. Get your copy of First Steps to Wealth today and begin on a brand new path of some great success.
Now, more of The Dani Johnson Show.
You got some wild kids? We've all seen those wild kids out there, and it's really sad. I watch a lot of parents just argue with their kids. Or this one is one of my favorites. 1, 2, 3, right? I don't know. What is that supposed to do? This whole counting thing? I know you're not teaching your kid how to count. But it's really funny how parents take the same exact parenting skills that did not work on them, and then they try them out on their own children and then pull their hair out like their own parents pulled their hair out when they were raising you, and then they can't figure out what's going wrong. Here's another one. Here's another total parenting disaster. Do it because I said so. How well did that work on you? Listen, we really got to look and analyze professionally our skill sets in training up the next generation. Either we're training them up for mediocrity and failure in marriage and in finances, or we're going to train them up for success and good health and wisdom and healthy marriages. My husband and I, we were trained for a toxic marriage, and you'll never guess what happened. Thank God for personal development. That's all I got to say on that one. Thank God that he led both Hans and I as teenagers into personal development, because we wouldn't even be alive for that matter. Forget about the marriage. We would be dead, probably at the hand of each other. No joke, because we were trained to fail in relationships. Based on what? Our parents' toxic relationships and how they parented us. So we are going to analyze this today, because I really agree with Rose Kennedy, who raised some pretty successful kids, that she saw child rearing as a profession. You've heard me say that here on the Dani Johnson Show many times, that I ran my household as a business. I was a businesswoman. And so I just took the same exact communication and people skills and problem-solving skills and financial skills into the home. And as I looked at these young ones that, from birth on, will I allow them to manipulate me? Or is it going to be on the terms that's best for the whole family? Are we going to have a schedule that's best for the whole team? Or is everything going to be revolving around one person? So we're taking your call live right now here today, 844-200-3264. Again, that's 844-200-3264. If you've got questions in this area, I'm going to do my best to help. I think between the two of us, two heads are better than one, right? So we'll try to help each other, right? Hey, I don't have a perfect family. Oh, Lord have mercy. No. But I can tell you that most of the teen years were very simple for us, and I believe it's because of the things that we did when they were young. There was some very stressful times, and of course we had trauma hit our home, just like every other home. And if you haven't had trauma hit your home yet, get ready. It might come. More than likely, it's actually a promise. Yes, trials will come. Anyway, I've got Hoku from Maui, Hawaii. Hi, welcome to the Dani Johnson Show. What can we do for you today?
Hi, I just wanted to know, I too have 5 children, and my 2 older ones are 12 and 10, and then I got a 4-year-old, and then 2 twins at 3. So my 2 older ones, 12 and 10, they are constantly at each other's throats, bickering, fighting, calling each other names. And number 3, who the 4-year-old likes to pick on number 2 as well. So the number 2 always feels like she's ganged up amongst them. So they are constantly at each other's throats, at home, outside, when we're at stores, constantly fighting.
Wow.
How did you deal with that?
First of all, Mommy, I understand you feel like a constant referee. Right?
Yes.
Just put the black and white uniform on. Just put it on, grab the whistle. Let's do this thing right. No, I'm kidding.
Right.
Okay, so yes, I think I might be able to give you a couple little tips on this one. First of all, whenever you see kids bickering, it's because they have some pent-up resentment and bitterness inside of their hearts towards the one that they're ganging up on. So person number 2, the 10-year-old, somehow has hurt somebody else's feelings, and it has not been addressed yet. So whenever I would start to hear my young ones, and especially at those ages, right, 12 and 10, whenever I would hear them begin to just snap with each other, calling names has never been allowed in our house, ever. That sucker, I nipped that sucker in the bud, because names are labels, and kids will wear those labels for the rest of their lives. Stupid, you're fat, you're ugly. I mean, hello, it's taken me a lifetime to get rid of those labels, right? So whenever you allow a child to speak that curse over another person's life, it really is damaging to the self-esteem of the other human being. And so you really want to, and how I learned that was from my profession as a businesswoman. As I would be business consulting with different people, I would see the fruit that they had this belief about themselves that they were stupid, or they had this belief that they would never succeed, or that they were ugly, or they were fat, or they were insignificant, or whatever. And that adult would be manifesting that in their life, and they're a business person. And so I would find myself going, hey, when was the first time you ever called that name? And it always came back down to the childhood. Just hold the line. We have to cut to a break. I'm going to go ahead and address more of this in just one moment. This is Dani Johnson.
You're listening to The Dani Johnson Show. Stay tuned for more of Dani Johnson.
But I'm so blessed that I found what is in Grooming the Next Generation for Success. This is a book that is being taught in universities around the world. It's been noted as the best book on parenting that has ever been written. Crazy, if you ask me. But the point is that this thing gets results. Get your copy today, 888-757-8880. Again, that's 888-757-8880, or go to DaniJohnson.com. That's DANI Johnson.com. Get your copy today.
Helping you get a grip on your priorities and your focus. The Dani Johnson Show.
Here's Dani Johnson.
I hate you. I don't like you. You're fat. You look funny. You have a big nose. Did you hear those things when you were growing up? You know, the old saying that we said to kids who said things like that, whether it was our sisters or brothers or people we went to church with or on the playground with, sticks and stones will break my bones, but names will never hurt me. That is such a lie. It is. It's such a lie. No, names hurt for a lifetime when people are not given the gifts or the skill sets to not receive those terrible labels. I've done entire shows on just labels that you and I wear that we take into our adult life, and some of us die with these labels. We're wearing them as though we're putting them on as a shirt, like the label that's on the back of my shirt and the one that's on yours. We live out the very words that other kids have spoken against us. So joining me right now is Hoku from Maui, Hawaii. She's got 5 children. She just explained they're 12, 10, 4, and 2 twins at 3 years old. And the 2 older ones pick on each other. And then the 4-year-old is trying to pick on the 10-year-old. Man, that is one bold 4-year-old, honey. Wow.
Yes.
And you'll never guess where he learned it from, or she learned. No, it was a she, you said. She's learned it from the older 2 siblings. Yep. She's learned it from above.
Yes.
So you really need to address the name calling and not allow that in your family. I wrote in the book, Grooming the Next Generation for Success. It sounds like you don't have that book right now. This is going to be a supplemental of your Bible. This is by far, and this has been said by sociologists, professors have said, the most powerful parenting book that ever graced the earth. This book gets results, and it addresses, it even has scripts in here about how to correct your children who are name calling, how to correct the children who are constantly fighting with each other, and how to discern what is the real problem that is taking place here. So number one, you got to have a standard, kind of a code, a mission statement for your own family. You know what I mean? Of like, what is the culture of your family? Name calling is allowed into your culture right now. That's one thing that needs to be fixed, because here's what's happening. The kids are getting hurt, right? By being allowed to call each other names. So now where does the hurt go? The hurt turns into unforgiveness. It turns into resentment, bitterness. Bitterness has been proven to give cancer. Proven, medically proven. Bitterness that then turns into hatred, malice, jealousy, distrust, judgment, self-hate, no self-worth. Let's keep going. Depression, suicidal thoughts, oppression, destruction, self-destruction. That's where it goes. All from, you have a big nose. I don't like you. I hate you. I like Johnny more than I like you. All from starting from that place. And then, fast forward, Mommy, what kind of husband or wives are you raising? Think about that for a minute. Right? They know it's okay to call people names. So does that stop when they fall in love, exchange vows, and a year after the fuzzy stuff comes off of the marriage, right? Come on, you win there, right? Yeah. Once the honeymoon goes away, then what flies out of our mouths? The things we've been saying our entire lives since we were 3 years old, allowed to call someone else a bad name. Because it's a habit. So I'd be going before your kids, and I'd be saying,
Okay.
Please forgive me. I have allowed an activity inside of this house that does not fit who we are as a family. We have created a culture of labeling and name calling, and this is destructive to your future. There's winners and losers in this world, and we are a family of winners, and winners do not call people names. People who are winners are successful, and successful people do not destroy others with their mouths. They edify, they encourage, and they build up. So for now on, and you need to hold me accountable, I'm not allowed to call someone stupid. I'm not allowed to call someone ugly. I'm not allowed to call someone slow. I'm not allowed to point out those things in anybody's life. And I'm going to hold you accountable because you're called to succeed on this earth. And name calling will help you fail miserably in your future business or job, in your future marriage, and with your parenting. So that's the new standard, guys. Let's hold each other accountable. In fact, let's go ahead and start this new exercise. Each one of you grab a piece of paper and a pen. I want you to write down 15 things you love about your brothers and sisters and your parents. So get their mouths to be trained to encourage and edify. That's the first place to start.
Yeah.
And obviously dealing with the bitterness and the resentment, that's a forgiveness issue. That's a whole nother topic. But the reason why the bitterness is there is because the name calling has been allowed. So I would address that one right now, Mama. You're such a good mom, by the way. I'm really proud of you. I really am so proud of you. We've all been taught in one way or another. Our parents did their best, but they didn't realize what they were preparing us for. You are a mom that now has the revelation of what to do that's right. And by the way, again, it's grooming the next generation for success. It is your manual. It's scripting on how to address issues like this and so many more. And there's also video and audio and a workbook that comes in a whole home study course. Many parents actually just press play in front of their kids and let the video teach the kids how they should act, teach the kids how to solve their own problems. And we have thousands of testimonials coming from kids saying, thank you. I no longer am hateful to my parents anymore. I've gotten letters from 4-year-olds, no joke, 4-year-olds writing, drawing pictures saying, thank you. I don't hate my parents anymore, or teenagers, every age in between, saying the changes they've made by simply their parents putting them in front of those videos, those audios, and that workbook. So God bless you, and I'm so thankful that you're here. Okay, we're going over to Skipton, England. We have Helen on the line all the way from England. What can we do for you today?
Hi, Dani.
Hi.
Hello. Hi, Dani. Hi. I have a fabulous 3-year-old girl. I'm pretty quick to nip a lot of things in the bud. I don't take tantrums. There's a lot of things I don't allow.
Good job.
I can't get her to stop whining. That's one thing, especially when she's tired. When she's been at nursery all day, the following day she just whines all day.
Yeah.
The second thing is getting her to respond and do what she's asked the first time instead of having to go down the whole do you want to be disciplined road every time.
Yeah.
And the third thing is she has this amazing capacity to be obtuse. That is, to pretend she doesn't understand what I'm talking about when she knows, full well she does. And I don't know how to stop her doing that either.
Sounds like the 3-year-old might have mommy wrapped around her finger a little bit.
Not so much. What she is a tenacious little ruby, and with a ruby daddy as well. I've got a pair of them. So.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, well, first of all, for those who just joined us, they just got in their car, they turned the radio on, they're like, a ruby? The 3-year-old is a ruby? What is that? Well, in grooming the next generation for success, I help you to identify what the personality gem is of your family, everybody that's in the family, because knowing what their personality is helps you to not squash their strengths and point out their weaknesses, but to train up the areas where they could have some major potential weaknesses to where we neutralize the weaknesses and really build up the strengths and not freak each other out all the time with trying to turn each other into the other. Certain personalities that want the other to change. This is a joke. We don't ever want to change people. We can't change people. We can only change ourselves and how we deal with those different personalities that are actually inside of our house. So, Helen, that's a lot, okay? I'm going to pick one of the 3 things to work on here. The whining. You know, I read this book years ago because whining is exhausting. It's absolutely exhausting, isn't it?
Yep.
It like presses on our nerves, and oh my gosh, the level of frustration it brings is absolutely out of this world. But there was something that I learned. First of all, there was a book, and it was by Dr. James Dobson. I very rarely ever recommend anybody else's books because they're never good enough to recommend, you know, from my heart, meaning that was okay, that was okay. But when I come across something really good, I got to recommend it. But Dr. James Dobson wrote a book it's called Dare to Discipline. And whining is arguing with you. She's actually arguing with you. She just doesn't have all the words to do it effectively yet. And so in the book, he talks about that when they reach that point is you completely ignore them. Because can you ever win an argument? No. You cannot win an argument. So you win an argument by not engaging in the argument. So what we used to say to our kids is say, I'm so sorry, I don't understand the language Chinese. As soon as you are ready to speak English with clear words, then I will be able to understand you. And it worked really well. Like, oh, and they start going like, oh, honey, do you hear that Chinese? I don't understand that language. And we just ignored the whining. We ignored the whining until then they changed and corrected their own communication, and then we would have a civil conversation. So I hope that helps. Try it out. This is Dani Johnson. We will continue with more of your calls concerning those unruly kids right after this.
This is the Dani Johnson Show.
I just heard this amazing story. One of our clients had written us telling us that they had used job domination and unlimited success and has absolutely exploded their career. He said, Dani, I don't know where I'd be today without job domination and unlimited success. Listen, do you want more recognition from your coworkers? Do you want to be recommended to people all over the world? Do you want to be somebody that is highly sought after? Listen, if you're in a dead-end place where this gentleman found himself, but then learned new strategies and changed everything in his work life, and obviously this has resulted in higher bonuses and pay raises, you're next. 888-757-8880. Get your copy of Job Domination right now. 888-757-8880. Again, 888-757-8880. Job domination. That's what you need. It's time for you to dominate the job market and break through the rut that you're in.
And now, back to more of the Dani Johnson Show.
I guess it's not just the United States of America where we got these wild cracking kids out there who seem to be controlling their parents. We've got callers today calling in from England, Canada, everywhere, all over the United States. I've traveled all over the world and I've seen these wild crackers all over the place. And there's been times where my kids have been the wild ones too. But we did find some solutions, and I wrote about those solutions in Grooming the Next Generation for Success. There's a quick story I want to share with you, actually, coming off of Helen, who was just on the line from London, England. Not London, but anyway, Skipton, England. Anyway, our son, Roman, he was born with this very dynamic personality, and he was one of those kids that came out screaming and he never stopped. He screamed and he screamed and he screamed. Like, it just seemed to be his natural response to all things was a loud scream, including I'm hungry or I've just dropped something in my pants. Get this diaper off of me. It never was a whimper or a whine. It was a, ah! You know, I mean, just, gosh, you know, piercing, loud scream. And I discovered something out of this because I was going crazy. Honestly, man, I must have had bald spots in my hair for pulling my hair out because I was going nuts. So, yes, Dani Johnson went nuts from time to time raising these 5 children. So anyway, I came to a place, and it's always a good place to come to. And I'm one of them praying women. I'm a praying mother. And you know what's so weird is that the things that we choose not to pray for. Isn't that stupid, right? So we somehow think that, okay, my son screaming all the time isn't something to pray about or ask God to help with. And so I suffered for a while with this, you know, all the time. So finally, I reached my wit's end, which is so lame that I have to reach my wit's end before I ask God to help me with the situation. So I began to ask the Lord. I said, Lord, please give me a revelation. I need help. I cannot figure this out. There's no book that is helping me. I'm not drawing it from any place. I don't know what to do. I'm going crazy. I'm such a bad mom. And the Lord said he's frustrated. And I went, Oh my gosh, he was 3 years old. And look, I was frustrated, and I was, 30. Yeah, 30. And I'm frustrated. I can't imagine. And I'm feeling the pain of frustration. I'm feeling the despair of the frustration, the emotional drain of frustration right in that moment. And the Lord spoke to me and he said, Roman is frustrated. And I began to weep. I felt so sorry for him. Like, oh no, that's terrible. So I go upstairs because he was screaming. And I put my hand on his little chest. I said, self-control. I whispered it to him, self-control. And I said to him, Roman, are you frustrated? And he goes, yeah. He just broke. He was frustrated. So I was able to connect with my 3-year-old on a very even level. I understood frustration, and the last thing you want when you're frustrated is for someone to frustrate you more. So 2 things that come out of that. Ask God. He's the one that made the child that came out of your body, or the one that you adopted, or the one that you received through marriage. Ask God. He will give you insight on how to deal with your specific, uniquely, wonderfully made child. He'll help you understand their personality and give you what you need. So Roman and I began an understanding, like, oh, he's frustrated. What can I do to bring peace? So right then and there, I began to pray peace over him. He put those little chubby arms around my neck and hugged me so tight and said, thank you, Mommy. And he went right to sleep. Seemed to work for me. All right, so we're going over here. We've got Alberta, Canada. We've got from Red Deer, Alberta, Canada, Stephanie, with a question concerning her children. This is Dani Johnson. How can I help you?
Hi, Dani. So I'm just wondering, how do I teach my children to honor and respect me without demanding it?
Yeah.
I was at Taekwondo with my son actually a few days ago, and it was about 5 minutes to his class, and I'd asked him to go sit with his class, and he kept arguing and said, no, I don't want to. And each time I'd ask him, his whining and his arguing would get a little bit louder and a little bit louder, and then he'd start stomping his foot, throwing his hands in the air, and I just kind of got frustrated and stood up and walked out of Taekwondo.
You mean you had a temper tantrum?
Yeah. More so than my 7-year-old.
I've had some of those. I totally understand where you're coming from. It's really sad when we, as the adult, forget our authority and forget our position. And we lower ourselves to our 3-year-old, our 5-year-old, our 9-year-old, and we begin to argue with them. Let me tell you a quick story, Stephanie. I highlight this story in Grooming the Next Generation for Success. I had a woman 11 years ago when we started the website, DaniJohnson.com. I committed to 20 hours a week of some business consulting and speaking. And so that meant that I was going to bring in somebody to help me to offset some of my duties at home for those 20 hours a week and to be with the kids, help with homework, things like that. Help to prep dinner for me. Those 3 days a week is when she came in and she worked 20 hours. And those were the 3 days a week that I worked. So the other 4 days a week, I was a full-time mom. Anyway, her name was Melissa, and our son Cabe had been trained up to honor and respect. And we believe in first-time obedience. We believe in willing obedience. Willing obedience always gets a blessing. A heart that is submissive and obedient is a heart that is teachable, that can be trained up to do great things in life. A rebellious heart is typically provoked from other people. So if we have rebellion in our kids, we have to actually look at ourselves and say, what did we do to provoke that rebellion? So if the tables were turned, how would your son feel? Is he receiving honor and respect when mom is arguing with him? Demanding honor and respect never works. But if we want honor and respect, we have to give honor and respect. There's so many different ways I can go in this, and we're about to cut over to a break. But what happened was I heard, gosh, there's so many places I could go. Let me pause on Melissa, and I'll tell that story in a minute, but let me give you this. When you make a demand of your child, some children most children don't respond well to the demand. Go get your shoes on and go over there and sit with those people. This is not honoring or respectful of the child. However, maybe kneeling down on your knees, getting to eye level and saying, I'm giving you a 5-minute warning because we need to move to what the next whatever is. We need to move to whatever the next task is. This is your 5-minute warning. So if you want to sit here for 5 minutes, you can, or you can get a head start and go over and sit and put your shoes on and whatever, because we're going to go and then we have these other tasks that we need to take care of. So the 5-minute warning is not abrupt. Do you know what I'm saying? It gives them a minute to hear and get ready to move. Some people can move very quickly. Other personalities cannot. And so an abrupt command often will provoke rebellion in a child. And so you want to build trust by honoring them and saying, this is your 5-minute warning. So, for example, if you know you're over at somebody else's house to play and it's time to go, often parents will go, "Hey, get your stuff together. It's time to get out of here." This is very abrupt to them. But if it is, "Hey guys, this is your 5-minute warning. As we talked about before we got here, it's time to get things cleaned up, and then I'll be back in 5 minutes and we'll be ready to go." And this is what I say. And what answer am I looking for? Yes, ma'am. And they would say it. I said, "Good job. You're awesome." This is Dani Johnson. We'll continue with more of the Dani Johnson Show right after this.
Respectful, honorable, mindful. This could and should be your child. Up next on the Dani Johnson Show.
You want to succeed, right? But you do not want to fail God at the same time. There is a way to succeed from a biblical perspective, and it's far greater than anything you could ever imagine. Over 500 scriptures I studied to study money, everything that the Bible said about money. That's in the first couple chapters of Spirit-Driven Success. Not to mention leadership, working with people, growing a career, being used mightily in the marketplace, which is where Abraham, God used him in the marketplace. And Joseph, God used him in the marketplace. Moses, God used him in the marketplace. Daniel, Solomon, really all of the greats of faith, most of the greats of faith throughout the Bible, they all were in the marketplace, and God wants to show you how you can be used mightily by him in the marketplace. Right here, Spirit-Driven Success is where all of my notes are on how you can do that. 888-757-8880. Again, 888-757-8880. Get your copy of Spirit-Driven Success today.
Hello.
Improving the quality of your life. The Dani Johnson Show.
I love it.
Welcome to Hour 2 of the Dani Johnson Show. Interesting topic. Are you the boss, or is your 4-year-old the boss? Or your 10-year-old, or your 16-year-old? Does the world revolve around your children, and now you are paying the consequences for that dastardly mistake? I'll tell you what, when we started raising kids, I had a little bit different mindset. My mindset was to use the business skills and strategies and techniques that I learned in the business world and brought those into the home. Those happen to do with communication skills, people skills, understanding them, how to motivate people. And I had little peoples at the house. So practicing those skills, those business skills in the home actually helped me to become a better business person, and vice versa, helped me to become a better mom. So I literally looked at the household as a business, including the finances of the household and my relationship with my husband, who that is the CEO, and I was the president of the household, and the children who were future employees of that business or future business partners someday, and that my job was to train them up to succeed instead of training them up for toxic future relationships, which is what we were taught based on the toxic environment we were raised in and the troubles that we had in our marriage early on, and even later, even as of now, that we're going through counseling to learn how do we navigate this season of having adults that are people we gave birth to and that we raised up, and now they have their own lives. Anyway, so I want to tell you a quick story, and then we're going over to the phones because we're taking your call. You want help? Listen, 2 heads are better than one. I'm not certainly the chief expert on all things at all. We did use some techniques in our house that helped things to be so much better. 844-200-3264 is our number. Again, that's 844-200-DANI 3264. So there I am. We go to start our new website, DaniJohnson.com, after 4 years of me being retired. I'm going to work 20 hours a week. That happened in 3 days. I did business consulting and speaking and training for business, finance, and for relationships. So there I am because we started this business out of our house to keep costs low. And so I'm in my office / my bedroom, and I'm on the phone, and I'm doing some business consulting with somebody. And yeah, lo and behold, I hear bust out of the kitchen an argument between a 32-year-old woman and a 9-year-old. And I'm hearing this bickering going back and forth, and it was like this. Melissa says to my son, Cabe, it's time to put the dishes away in the dishwasher. And he goes, oh, man. And then she says, Cabe, you better do it with a good attitude. But I don't want to put the dishes in the dishwasher. Cabe, you know that you are supposed to obey. It's time to put the dishes away in the dishwasher. I'm giving you to a count of 3. He starts crying and screaming. He's 9 years old. Fortunately, my phone call was ending. I hang up the phone. I come out and I say, Cabe Daniel. Yes, ma'am. Please run upstairs. Yes, ma'am. Melissa, can I have a chat with you? Melissa and I then engaged into this conversation. Melissa, I've worked hard for 9 years with Cabe to train him to honor and respect and to have first-time obedience, to obey the first time. Because not obeying the first time is no obedience at all. It is rebellion. So we've worked really hard in training him up with skill sets that are going to help him succeed in his future as a husband, as a father, and as a worker in the marketplace. And you, with that example, just trained my son. It was okay to disrespect his future wife, disrespect his sister, his mother, to dishonor perhaps his future boss that might be a woman or some future coworkers by arguing with him. You're 32 years old. You do not need to argue with a 9-year-old. You're a bit more mature than that. So here's what I would ask that you do. Cabe's been trained that when he's asked to do something, and if he decides to disobey right there, you're going to give him a chance. You say, would you like to try that again? He knows what that means. He knows that if the answer is not yes, ma'am, but he gives the lip, he knows that there is a belt waiting for his backside or a corner waiting for his nose. He knows that there's a privilege that's going to be taken away from him if he decides to rebel instead of obey. So that's all you have to say to him. Cabe, would you like to try that again? And she's like, oh, okay, sure enough. It worked because he'd been trained up since he was young. That if he decides not to obey the first time, I give him a chance. Would you like to try that again? And if he decides not to and he stills, then I said, okay, then you have asked me to discipline you. Let's go get ready for some discipline. And we head upstairs. And I have a little script about how they were disciplined and how we picked which form of discipline they would have and how they would have to confess the infringement that they brought on another person's life right there and how they have to learn for not honoring the elder. Because for the rest of our lives, friends, we have to honor our elders or we don't go far. For the rest of our lives, we need to obey. We need to obey. We need to obey. And if we don't obey, there's consequences for disobedience. There's discipline for disobedience. And discipline as an adult hurts so much more. I'd much rather take a belt on my butt than the lessons God has had to teach me. I'm serious. I'd much rather have put my nose in a corner than the harsh, terrible lessons that God has had to discipline me with because I was so rebellious and I wouldn't listen to anybody. So it's important to teach first-time obedience. Okay, we've got Ramunas calling in from the United Kingdom. That is the UK. Welcome to the Dani Johnson Show. How can we help you today?
Hi, Dani. How's it going?
Good. What can we do for you?
We have 2 kids, 2 boys. One is 4 years, and the other one just 1 year old, just last Saturday. So before I ask my question, I want to thank you so much for the Grooming Next Gen. this helped us a ton.
Good.
So the challenge that we started having, or more precisely my wife, because she stays home with them,
That's awesome.
is that the older one, I wouldn't say he started to be more rebellious, but as she says, he's a bit more difficult to control. He's sapphire ruby, and he has a ton of energy. And I assume it's because we have a little one, so a lot of attention needs to be put on the little one. So what tips could you...
Well, let's go with that. Let's go with that, because you as the father, Ramunas, as the father, I think you might have a hunch as to what is actually going on. And since this is a new baby, right? It's a 1-year-old baby. And that's difficult, especially, and I noticed this with Cabe when he was 3 and we brought Roman home. Cabe completely changed into a different kid. Prior to Roman coming home from the hospital, Cabe was the most obedient, sweetest, joyful little boy. And he never had the terrible twos, as they say. He wasn't the screamer. He was so easy, so compliant, and so was Erica. And then we bring Roman home, and all of a sudden, my potty-trained 3-year-old started pooping his pants again. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, he started screaming. And I would be like, wait, who kidnapped my son, Cabe? Someone took my kid and brought this hellion to my house. What's going on? But the reality is that sometimes when the new baby comes, it can provoke some jealousy in the older child. And I think you're onto something. I think that you might be discerning that. And so here's what your wife and you need to look at. Setting aside, first of all, have the conversation with him. He's 4. You'd be amazed what he can understand. Do you feel like you are not as important anymore now that your brother has been brought into the family? Ask him that question. He might be feeling like he's either been replaced or that now he has to share. And sharing is a thing that we all have to learn, because all of us have to share for the rest of our lives. Forever. Forever. We have to share. We have to share the duties around the house. We have to share the responsibility of the finances. We have to share the responsibility of fixing things. We have to, well, when your kids get older, you're going to be sharing the clothes in your closet with your sons. I promise. It does happen. And even the mother has to share some of her clothes with the sons in the closet, especially my shoes. They stole my shoes. They didn't steal them, but they took them, and then they destroyed them, so they got to keep them. Anyway, I think it's important to go with that hunch that I believe God has given you and ask your son if this is how he's feeling. And, we often just bring another kid home, not even thinking about how that may make another child feel. And if you've discerned your son's personality right, and he is a ruby sapphire, which if you don't know what that is, obviously Ramunas does. He says they've got the book, Grooming the Next Generation for Success. But those are 2 very exorbitant personalities. Those are 2, it's a challenge or personality. They like a challenge. They like to be first. They like to do the best. And they're also very loud and fun and vivacious and high energy. So you take those 2 personalities, you put them together in the same human. Yikes! And for a mother, and then you make it a male. Wow. Boys already have, seems like 10 times more energy than most little girls do. And they typically are the dominant personality versus the girls generally are more submissive. Naturally, they're more submissive versus the sons. So anyway, so it's important to sit down and have a conversation and even to say, please forgive us if we've made you feel at all. And how can we make you feel better about that? Because you are our firstborn and you are so special to us. And we remember when you were his age. And I would also set aside time that is only between mommy and that son and you and that son. And then mommy and daddy alone with the son. So really take advantage of the times when the baby is sleeping because they need that personal time with you. And it's important to give him that, and you'll see that he'll start to calm down a little bit and be back to the little boy that you had before you brought the other one home. So I would try that. We had to do something similar with our son at that same age. as he was screaming his brains out all the time when he never screamed before. So anyway, try that. And I really appreciate you as a father. What an awesome, humble man you are, and that you care enough about your kids that you actually are looking for solutions, and that you're reading books like Grooming the Next Generation for Success. And instead of reacting, you're looking for a solution that you can implement and get a result from. So I really appreciate you tremendously. This is Dani Johnson. We're going to continue with more of the Dani Johnson Show right after this. If you have a question or you have a comment or something that has helped you, you can help other people that are struggling. 844-200-3264. Again, that's 844-200-3264. We're going to continue with your call right after this.
It's never too late to turn around a child on the wrong path. That and more next on The Dani Johnson Show.
Hi, I'm Dani Johnson, and the most common question I get usually are from people who are trying to juggle their life. They've got kids who are involved in all kinds of activities. They've got business or their job, finances, trying to get out of debt, plus all their church activities and all the volunteer activities, and they're pulling their hair out going, how do I juggle this all? Man, I once lived just like that until I learned Time Secrets. Time Secrets showed me how to be able to cut my hours from 100 hours a week that I was working down to 20 hours a week, and tripled my income as a direct result with what I learned. Time Secrets also showed me how to get my priorities in order, which healed up my marriage, and I became a mother that I was proud of versus becoming the mother I didn't want to be. And so if you feel like your world is running around in all kinds of different circles, you can fix that. Call 888-757-8880. Again, 888-757-8880 for Time Secrets.
Helping you get a grip on your priorities and your focus. The Dani Johnson Show.
Here's Dani Johnson.
Most people give birth and hope for the best, unless, of course, they're churchgoers, and then they have a similar plan, which is give birth and pray for the best. But this is not the best course of action. The Bible's very specific. It tells us we are to train up our children. That doesn't mean sit them in front of a babysitter called VeggieTales or Sesame Street or Barney or whatever is the current totally disrespectful child programming that is out there today. Not that the ones I mentioned were, but there's so much disgusting programming on television, and parents simply are sitting their kids in front of a video. Now, once in a while, it's okay, or maybe limit it to 30 minutes or an hour a day, and that's it. But we really have given up our jobs of training up our children to become successful in their future relationships, as well as their relationship with money and work. Instead, we just hope and pray for the best. That's a plan of failure, not a plan of success. It takes deliberance. It takes diligence. It takes self-discipline, and it takes you and I to be really, really consistent. And through the years of raising them, we encounter different types of challenges along the way, whether it's in the early years that seem to be the most frustrating, or those teen years, or where we're at right now, the young adult years, trying to figure out how to navigate. Whoa, wait a minute. I'm mom. However, that relationship has changed quite a bit. They're not looking for mom to correct them anymore. They're not looking for mom to give them advice anymore. They want to spread their wings and fly with the independence. And I need to know that the roots that I've planted inside of them is going to take them to a place of success, because I worked my tail off to make sure that we did. We're taking your call right now. We've got Sarah from Northern Arizona. Sarah, what can we do for you today here on the Dani Johnson Show?
Hey, I'm wondering the steps to ensure that children don't get offended when you have to correct them, or if they're doing something that they're not supposed to be doing. What can I do to teach them how not to be offended, but to try to absorb what I'm saying, even if they need a moment to cool off and then come back and talk to them? The offense, I guess.
Okay. It's an interesting twist of not having your kid get offended when they've been caught red-handed in sin.
Yeah.
They've committed offense. Do you know what I mean? They've committed an offense. And there is correction for that offense. And if we don't, if they don't feel the pain of correction while they're young, then they will have to, in a much bigger form, when they commit an offense as an adult that sometimes results in jail time, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So I guess the thing to ask yourself, and first of all, what you said was really good, Sarah, that you might have to leave for a few minutes to cool down. I would be searching something in your own heart with, is what you're saying coming across as condemning or critical or hurtful? Stay away from things like this. How many times do I have to tell you? That makes someone feel stupid. They feel stupid right there. Stay away from things that pull the past offenses into the present offense. When are you finally going to learn? How many times do you think that you're going to get away with something like this? Reminding them of their past mistakes will be hurtful to who they are. So we have to deal with the current thing that needs to be corrected and not pulling from the last 12 things that they did and using that as ammunition. But everything is fresh right there in that moment, and you deal with that one thing. And just make sure, in fact, here's what I would encourage you to do. I don't know if you'll remember to do it, but I'm sure you carry your cell phone with you. Record the next time you go to react. Just, they're starting to do their thing, pull out your phone, record, and deal with it, and then listen back to it and see how you would feel. And say, wow, was I condemning? Was I critical? Did I pull in records of wrongs from the past? Am I really angry because I haven't forgiven my child for what he has done, these 12 times that he's done this thing? So it's important that you have a clean heart when you go to discipline your child. Otherwise, you are going to pull from anger from other things, and it's going to come out sideways. So, and again, this is honorable and this is respectful for your child. Records of wrongs, don't we hate it? Gosh, it's so condemning and it's oppressive. I've had somebody in my life that constantly wants to remind me of my past, and it's oppressive. And so you don't want to oppress anybody. And you want to start from a clean slate, and you make sure you forgive your child every time they have brought an offense like that to you. Because if you don't, it adds up and then you go sideways. This is Dani Johnson. We're taking your call right after this.
Don't just stand there. Soak this up. It's joy, it's encouragement, it's insight to a better life and how to meet your obligations and overcome obstacles.
The Dani Johnson Show.
This is the Dani Johnson Show.
This is your chance. This is your shot. Get your copy of War on Debt right now. There's one waiting for you that has your family's name on it. And inside that package is freedom. Your freedom, your family's freedom is on the inside of that package. All you have to do is open it up, press play, and start applying what I teach you in this program. 888-757-8880. You and I are going to help your family become completely debt-free in the next 5 to 7 years. Just imagine how that's going to feel.
Giving you the playbook to design your life. This is the Dani Johnson Show. And now, here's Dani.
I've gone through so many different stages as a parent, and I'm so grateful that I made the conscious decision that I wouldn't parent the way I was parented. And although my parents did the best that they could, they had a toxic relationship. They had a toxic relationship with finances. Neither one of them worked. Then come to find out, who I thought was my dad wasn't my dad, that I was actually given up for adoption. And this new man adopted me when I was 8 years old. Lied to my whole life that I was told that he was my father and my mom was a virgin on our wedding night and blah, 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 blah. But the bottom line is I grew up in a toxic environment, and therefore I learned toxic habits. Being criticized constantly, being condemned, being put down, never being encouraged. Anytime I did something right, it was though it was wrong. That which I did was good was told it was bad, and it wasn't good enough. So I grew up with so many different complexes and so many mental and emotional issues. It's disgusting. You take someone like me and you marry me to my husband who had the same issues. He had the very same upbringing that I did. What do you have? A disaster. But I'm so grateful to my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, who put a hope in me and a book in my hand and a desire to know him deeper. that as I began to read his book cover to cover, that book is called the Bible. As I read that book cover to cover, I began to learn new ways of living. And I started to pick up my cross, if you will, and walk with him. And that helped to heal parts of our marriage and heal us from the inside out, from our childhoods. We're still healing from things that happened in our marriage and things that happened in our childhood. But I remember along the way, as we've been doing our very best to train up our children, deliberately training specific skill sets into them, that helped to reduce the stress in our house. So much so that people would ask me, you know, if I'd be at the doctor's office or something like that, I'd be like, man, do you have a parenting book? Do you teach classes on parenting? Because your kids are the most amazing kids we've ever seen in this office. We've had 1,000 kids come through this office, and your kids are phenomenal. You should be teaching classes here locally. So after years of people saying that, and again, all I did is I took my business skills that I used in the marketplace for 10 years, I took all those skill sets and I just applied it in the home. The communication skills, the marketing skills, the motivational skills, how do you motivate people? I took all, including the financial skills, I took that into the home, and I literally saw it as the Hans was the CEO, I was the president, and these children are either business partners or future employees, and my job was to make sure they were trained up with the proper work ethic, the proper attitude about work, and the proper attitude about people, the proper attitude about serving other people. That they had then. It's really awesome to see, you know, our son who got married just a few months ago, he serves his wife. He does. He helps with the laundry. He helps in the kitchen with her. And again, that was something that I set out early on because my husband was not trained to do those things. And that was a source of contention in our marriage, that all the laundry was on me, all the cooking on me, the grocery shopping, all the fixing of everything that broke in the house was on me, cleaning of the house, everything was on me. He did help a bit with changing diapers and once a couple of the kids that happened to be bottle fed after 6 weeks. He helped with some of those feedings. He got up in the middle of the night, helped with a few things like that. But I didn't want it to be that my sons were ones that were expecting to be served and didn't help in that responsibility because it caused a lot of contention in our house. And so now to see our son married and one that is helping out his wife, not expecting to be served by her, but that it's a team effort now. And so honestly, what you put into them is going to come out of them. And it takes a while to see it, but it's important to make sure that we're training up our children in a way that's going to be helpful and beneficial for them to succeed. So Angela is on the phone from Illinois. Angela, welcome to the Dani Johnson Show. How can we help you today with your kid situation?
Yes, Dani. First of all, I just want to say you're awesome, and you have helped me tremendously in so many ways. And I am buying your Grooming for the Next Generation for Success, so thank you. I have a 5 and a 2-year-old, and needless to say, I'm struggling. I know you can only touch on one topic. Yeah. My 2-year-old is she's in that talking back. Excuse me.
Oh, Mommy, I can hear the crack in your voice. I can hear the wit's end. You want to cry.
Yes.
You want to cry.
Yes. And I actually had a meltdown yesterday right in front of them because I was just, at my wit's end. So anyhow, I'm getting the book today because I need help. Yeah. So anyhow, I'm just struggling with
the 2-year-old that's talking back. Yep. And that's hard.
And she tells me I'm mean, and you know, and I know I had a really tough background as well, and I'm not gonna use it as an excuse, but I really did not want my kids to go through what I went through. Yes. And so I'm trying to do my best, but I feel like I'm failing every day.
Yes.
So,
Angela, let me speak into that. First of all, your upbringing, being as it was, probably similar to mine, will be used as a positive tool in raising your children. Only if you forgive your parents for their shortcomings. If you do not forgive and release and speak blessing over your parents, you will become what you judge. You will become them to your children. And I know you don't want that, Mommy. You don't want that at all. I know you can feel that it's happening already, especially when the 2-year-old has the boldness to say, you're mean, Mommy. Because I'm telling you, if there is a worse nightmare, it is coming from a toxic home and then having that toxicity come out of our mouths to the next generation. It's enough to drive us to the grave early. And that fear drove me to forgive my mom and dad fully for everything. I would search out my heart and just say, what do I need to forgive them for? I was neglected as a kid. My mom and dad chose drugs over us. I had to forgive them for that. They rejected us. I had to forgive them for that. And when I forgave them, I got to see their life from their perspective. My mom grew up in a toxic home. Her mom was married and divorced 5 times in an era where they didn't do things like that. Not to mention that her mom was a mistress for someone in the mafia when they lived in Florida, an Italian woman who was a mistress for the Italian mafia. Wow. My mom didn't even know that her dad even existed. She didn't even know he existed. My dad that raised me, that turns out wasn't even my dad, he was badly abused and beaten by his mom and dad. There was molestation that happened in that house. They grew up in toxic, abusive homes with alcoholics on every side. No morals, no structure, no love. And so that's what they both learned how to do with us. And you see, I hated my dad. I loved my mom. I had compassion on my mom, but I hated the man that raised me. And it wasn't until I forgave both of them that I could begin to become me, how God designed me to be, a fresh, new creature in Christ. A brand new creature with a brand new start that wouldn't be just like my mom or just like my dad, but that I would be transformed into the image of Christ, the perfect example of a father, of a parent, of a friend, of a lover. So I ask you to do that. You've got the book coming to you. You already ordered it. I would also jump into the videos and the audio. It's a home study course because this is a deeper issue. And you have everything it takes, Angela. Look at this cry that's in your heart. I don't want to become them. Judge not, lest you become what you judge. So let's get healed from that. And now you'll have the owner's manual of training up your children in the way they should go with grooming the next generation for success. And the days of them mouthing off to you are over. They're over. My kids don't mouth off to me. I learned through the skills I teach here in Grooming the Next Gen how to correct that, how to bypass it all together, to train them up with honor and respect instead of disrespect, dishonor, rebellion, and hatred and malice, which is what you and I had, right? So I'm going to tell you this right now, and I want you to listen to this recording again and again. After the show is done, you can listen to the recording of it. You're a good mom, and you are not where you came from. You're a good mom. Look at the question that you're asking. Look at the show you called in on. Look at the tools that you just ordered. You are reaching out for help while your kids are young. You're reaching out for solutions because you don't want to repeat the generation before you. You're a good mom. You're a great mom for that. You want to see your kids succeed and you want to have a healthy relationship with them. And that sets you apart above all other people. I'm proud of you. This is Dani Johnson. We'll continue with more right after this.
Stay tuned for more of Dani Johnson in just a moment.
The whole story of how I went from homeless to millions is right here in this book, First Steps to Wealth. I'd love to give you a free copy of this book. Just dial 888-757-8880. You can get your free copy of this book. It's like a real book, my friend. You can get an ebook copy for free right now, or if you'd like to pay the shipping to get this $15 book to your house, I'd be happy to send it to you. 888-757-8880. Get your copy of First Steps to Wealth today and begin on a brand new path of some great success.
We're back. Here's Dani Johnson.
I have certainly had moments of feeling like I was a failure as a mom. I have. Many times. But then I am reminded of the truth. I'm giving it my best shot. Are you giving it your best shot? Where's the proof you're giving it your best shot? But Dani, I keep failing every day. I feel like throwing in the towel. I feel like somebody else could do a better job raising my kids. No, you are qualified. You are qualified. God called you qualified to be that child's mother. And he knew exactly what he was doing when he chose you and when he chose them. You are qualified. And you know something? I would say that we lack in this world encouragement. We do. We lack encouragement. You know, I realized on the trip that my daughter had recently coming out to visit us with all 6 of her children. My daughter is very beautiful. She's very talented. She's stunning. She's smart. She's charismatic. She's attractive. She's like a magnet for people. And this is the child that I didn't get to raise her whole life. It's a long story, but at 14 is when her and I were back in contact with each other. She is more like me than my other 4 children. And she's the one that had spent the least amount of time with me at that time. She's now 27, going on 28. And I realized when she was in my house that she's juggling 6 kids, which I had to do at points in my life. I realized that based on her beauty, her confidence, her very direct personality, her very deliberate way of living, she's very decisive, she's got very opinionated, she's very strong, that she probably has a lot of people, and I know it to be true, that stay away from her and put her down or think she's overconfident and don't encourage her. And God gave me this great revelation. And I texted her the morning that she left, and I said, I want you to know you're a great mom. And you're trying your hardest to be better every day. And you love those kids so passionately. And you've taken on 2 kids that are not your own, and you're trying to adopt these 2. You have a big heart. You are beautiful. And you were perfectly made by our God in heaven. She sends me a text back. She's like, wow, Mom, why are you sending this? I said, because I know how it feels to have all that gifting and talent and ability stored up in one place, and people rather, with their jealousy, put you down and point out your faults and stay away from ever encouraging you because they think you're going to get a big head. But I'm here to tell you, I know you see yourself and your faults, and you remind yourself of those things often. And I'm here to tell you, you're a great mom, and you're a great woman, and you are beautiful, and you are going to continue to do great things in your life. And I am with you, and I stand for you, not against you. So I'm here to tell you, parents, you're doing such a great job. The fact that you watch today's show or listen to this on the radio, that sets you apart. Do you know how many millions of parents out there that are running the failure plan of hope for the best for their kid? But you care about training them up in the way they should go, and you care about changing you so you can be a better parent, so that you can set them up better than how you were set up. So that sets you apart. You're good. You are faithful. Yes, you fall. Yes, you fail. But the road to success is paved with failures. The road to success is paved with big giant potholes, floods, speed bumps, all of it. Cracks in the road. The road to success is that road, and you're on the right road. And I'm proud of you for reaching out for tools. Don't ever stop doing that. Don't ever stop learning. Don't ever stop growing. And when you hit your head up against a wall, reach out and ask for help first of Almighty God. And He will direct you to tools that are available. There's all kinds of parenting books that are available. Some of them are junk. Some of them are great. Some of them have mostly junk and a few great things. Chew the meat, spit the bones. You even find that you don't agree with everything that's in my book called Grooming the Next Generation for Success. We're not going to see eye to eye on all things when you read this book or you go through our home study course concerning training up kids for success. I believe the book is about training them up for emotional success, mental success, spiritual success, financial, and relationships. And the skills that you teach them when they're really young either set them up for great relationships and healthy living in all areas of their life, or if you don't train them up with these kind of skills, you're teaching them how to live a toxic life. If you're teaching them according to what our culture is, they're going to be raised as toxic individuals because we live in a toxic world. So, I'm proud of you for learning and growing. Over here, we're going to Michelle on line 1. She's calling in from South Carolina. Michelle, welcome to the Dani Johnson Show.
Thanks, Dani. I just wanted to call in and give you a huge thank you for all those years ago taking the time to write Grooming the Next Generation for Success. I had 4 kids in 5 years, and I was an absolute wreck as a mom. And we were never invited to go anywhere because, obviously, I didn't know what I was doing and everything was chaos. After finding grooming and applying the tips and strategies that you gave there, it went from my husband not wanting to come home at night to he couldn't wait to get there because the atmosphere in our home was completely different. I was not stressed out. I was not yelling at my kids, and there was peace. Yes. And so now we're like 5 years later. We get compliments all the time on our kids. People, our neighbors, are constantly saying, I even had a guy tell me, when I have a kid, I'm bringing him to you to raise him. And so it just goes to show, I am serious, that book saved my life. I have no doubt about it because I didn't even like my kids. I didn't like them. I didn't like myself. And it was terrible. And after applying what you teach them there, it completely changed everything. I would sit in my living room and go, wait, this is the same house? These are the same kids?
Wow.
I'm the same mom? Yes. And it completely changed it. And then it was so funny because once they were older and they started listening to Next Generation with, Grooming the Next Generation with me, they'd be like, Mom, you got that from Dani. I'd be like, yes, I did. And so it's been awesome. I just want to say thank you. And to Angela, just listen to what Dani says. Listen to it and apply it. Your life will change, and so will your kids. And it's just like you say in the book, it's actually the parent that has to apply it more than even the kids. Because, you know, if we weren't raised right, we didn't know what to do.
That's
and so
right.
I would literally just read it and read it and read it and listen and listen and listen over and over and over.
That's so
I just want to say thank you. And please write another one on how to deal with what you're dealing with right now.
Oh, gosh.
So that I have it once my kids are to that age.
I know. I'm so happy to hear that. And Michelle, man, that really, really blesses me. And I know Angela is listening right now, and I know that she was blessed by what you just said, and she's got hope now planted in her hands. Grooming the Next Generation for Success. It was a hard book to write. It is a personal passion of mine, and I'm so glad if it changed that one family, Michelle, if it changed your family, then that was worth all of it right there. And I can't take any credit for what's in that book. It all came from the Bible. It all came from what God taught me in the Bible, what we used and how it worked. So this is Dani Johnson. Thanks so much for joining me today. Tomorrow we're going to join you and I together again for another topic that will help you to succeed in your everyday life. God bless. Have a great one. Bye-bye.
A different perspective, a positive force in your life. Get that and more on the next Dani Johnson Show.
Yeah, I remember being homeless and broken in every way, and being overloaded with financial pressure, the pressure that I was a failure, the social pressure, everything that I felt like was crashing down on top of me. And at the same time, I felt so alone until I learned the strategies of first steps to success. You have the chance, my friend, to annihilate all of your debt. Think about that. You have the chance to grow your income through your current career, or even learning to start a brand new business that will be profitable. You also have the chance for learning how to motivate the people that are in your life that are driving you crazy, and how to have significant breakthrough, not only spiritually, but physically, financially, and socially, and business-wise. And so I'm excited to see you at First Steps to Success. It's coming up January 17th through the 19th. Get yourself registered today, 888-757-8880. There's a seat with your name on it, friend. 888-757-8880.